Early on in recovery, there's a lot of languages that are used. I think if we're being honest, there's probably a lot of language that gets used as well, but there's several languages that are spoken mostly by the unfaithful. Unfortunately, there's the language of minimization, the language of justification, the language of defensiveness, the language of accusation and blame shifting. I mean, there's a lot of different languages that are spoken early on by the unfaithful in recovery. Now, when I say that, I need you to know that it's normal. It's very normal. Even if someone early on as an unfaithful is really humble, torn up at what they've done, the language of faith would say, they're repentant. Even if they are broken and humble and torn up about what they've done, you're probably still going to hear the language of defensiveness or justification or blame shifting, or even the language of ambivalence. That's another language I forgot on the front end. That's a huge language that you may be hearing right now. It doesn't mean that they are hopeless. It just means they're not healthy yet. They probably haven't gotten the right help yet. And so the only languages that you're going to hear are these languages of minimization and confusion that aren't really helping anybody. If you are an unfaithful, I'm going to tell you the one language that is going to help you no matter what situation that you're in. It's the language that will gain ground with your betrayed spouse, and it's the language that will actually help you get healthy even if you're not sure where you want to be. Do you want to go back to your spouse? Do you want to stay with your affair partner? Do you want to just be on your own? I don't know, but this is the language that will help you in every situation that you're in. Equally true, if you're a betrayed spouse, this is the language that you're looking for. This is the language that you are constantly trying to hear and find in what your unfaithful spouse is saying. The most important language that the betrayed is needing to hear and looking for, and the most important language that the unfaithful could speak, is the language of commitment. Now, before you take a run and say, oh, well, I don't know where I want to be yet. I don't know what I want to do yet. I can't commit to the marriage because I don't even know if I want to go back to the marriage that we had, and I'm not sure if I want to commit to the marriage. I get that, but the way out of ambivalence, the way out of your lack of clarity, is the language of commitment that says, I will do X, Y, or Z, even if you're unsure if you want to save the marriage. The language of commitment does not say, well, I know I need to, lower my cholesterol or lose weight or make some changes to my diet. It's, I know I need to. That's not the language of commitment. I know I should. That's not the language of commitment. I probably should. No, that's not the language of commitment. The language of commitment says, I will do this in an effort to find clarity, in an effort to find healing, in an effort to find some sort of definitive decision on where we're going. Now, I know it's so easy to say, but again, Samuel, you're not understanding. I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Look, I get it. Save your breath. Here's what I'm saying. The language of commitment says, even though I don't know where I want to be, I'm not going to leave my betrayed spouse's life completely on hold forever. I'm not going to maybe even leave my affair partner's life on hold forever because of my indecision. The language of commitment says, you know what? Let's go to an EMS weekend. Let's do the boot camp on the website. I'm going to do Hope for Healing or Harboring Hope or what have you. It's the language of commitment that says, I'm willing to do these things to eventually make a decision and eventually help us get on with our lives. If you are an unfaithful, until you start speaking the language of commitment, I don't know that you're going to gain much ground at all with your betrayed spouse. If you're a betrayed spouse, that's the language that you're looking for. If you constantly are hearing this language of ambivalence or justification or what have you, I know it gets exhausting and it gets frustrating and it's overwhelming. But the one language that you need to listen for to identify a shift is the language of commitment that says, yes, I am willing to do this in an effort to find clarity, or at least start to move the ball down the road, because again, we're looking for progress, not perfection. You see, the betrayed spouse needs to hear that you're willing to commit not to the marriage per se, but committed to getting help, because getting the right help is going to help you identify eventually where you want to be. And that's true for both parties. I think it's equally true that the betrayed may not know where they want to be. But as long as they keep hearing the voice of minimization, defensiveness, justification, all of those voices are not the right voices. And as long as they hear that voice, they're going to be unsettled, they're going to be angry, they're going to be insecure, they're going to be hopeless, they're going to be frustrated, because that's not the language that they need to hear. They need to hear the language of commitment, not commitment on, you know what, I'm going to come home and save this marriage, even though you know you're not. Or I'm going to commit to, staying here and not being with my affair partner, even though your track record has probably not shown that to be true. They are looking and they are needing the voice of and the language of commitment, which brings me to the next point, which is they're not going to listen to that language of commitment if there isn't any follow-through. And there's got to be follow-through to what you are committing to. If they're hearing the language of commitment, but they're not seeing the actions that back up that commitment, because again, the goal is progress, not perfection, then you're going to be disbelieved or unbelieved in everything that you say, because your language of commitment doesn't have any follow-through, and so it's hollow. So if you're an unfaithful, don't run out and say, okay, I'm going to start using the language of commitment, but then not actually do what you say you are going to do. You're going to have problems, and you're going to actually create more problems for yourself, because now you're speaking the language of a liar and deception, because you're saying that you're going to do something, but you're not doing it. I know this firsthand because I was a master at the language of justification and minimization, and then I kind of made this transition to the language of commitment, but I didn't really follow through with it. The good thing was, as we did recovery work, it really helped me to see that all those times that I was using the language of commitment but not following through with it was wounding Samantha and hurting her. And so then I was able to transition to the language of empathy and the language of commitment. And when those two bridged together, let me just tell you, I upshifted into fifth gear. We were flying. Our momentum was unstoppable, because I was using the language of empathy for what I had done, but I was using the language of commitment for what I was willing to do, and then I was following through with it. Not perfectly, but with progress. And when you can marry together the language of empathy and the language of commitment, and then display follow through, I'm telling you, that is a wonderful picture of health within the life and the mind of the unfaithful.